I had an $82 steak, and it was mediocre. That, in and of itself, was disappointing. What's happening with you? It's Rob Hunter, a.k.a. the ROB. This is another edition of Equal Matters. Treat your matters equally, watch your life improve, treat each other equally, and watch the magic that happens. This is something I've noticed everywhere I go. Mediocrity. The kids might call it 6-7. At least my best understanding of what 6-7 is that, mediocrity. On a scale of 1 to 10, it comes in at a 6 or a 7. That seems to be most of life right now. I was just in Chicago giving a speech. The speech I gave was being the standard bearer. And this is something that applies in any industry. And it is something that is sorely needed. Whether you are a leader in a position of leadership or not, or a business owner. And there's tons of opportunities here. And this is what I see. And part of it is as the world has changed, and the world has changed a lot over the last 6 years since the pandemic. And we have new technology with AI. We're being overexposed to information and words, and we're being overexposed to new technology, and we're rushing through things. And I don't know about you, but every time I've rushed through things in my life, the end result is not quite as good as it could have been. And that's exactly what I'm talking about here. So in Chicago, giving my speech, and I really used the background of Hurricane Katrina. So Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans in 2005. I was there broadcasting live during the storm, America's worst natural disaster. And what I realized in that storm is that we, my little small team in New Orleans that stayed, became the standard bearers. We were the ones holding the flag, showing people the way, standing out front, being bold and visible. And those are the characteristics of being a standard bearer. Being bold, being visible, being out front. I want to add in one more here. I got a podcast episode coming out soon with my main man, Dave Riccio. He owns Tri-City Transmission and Auto Repair in Tempe, Arizona. He's who I consider a standard bearer. He said, Rob, I love those three, but I want to add one more to it. To be a standard bearer, you got to break the rules. In other words, you got to change things. And if you hear the beach in the background, I'm in Biddeford, Maine, walking along the shore. And it's beautiful right now because there's literally no one else on this beach. So I have this beach to myself, and this is what's coming through right now, is thinking about you being a standard bearer. And again, this doesn't matter what position you're in. Maybe you are the CFO of a company. Maybe you're a producer of a radio show like I used to be. And on paper, you're not a leader, but in the room, you are a leader. And maybe you want to be a leader. These are some of the characteristics that I've noticed over the years in good leaders. And what I experienced in Hurricane Katrina was the exact opposite of that. Because all three levels of government involved failed miserably. Start with the city of New Orleans, run by a guy named Ray Nagin at the time. Ray later was found guilty of corruption and sentenced to 10 years in prison. He's the anti-standard bearer. His response to New Orleans in Katrina was terrible. So much so that the dude fainted because he didn't know what to do. His nervous system was overreacting, whatever. He didn't supply enough food, water, when he put people into the Superdome and the convention center. Very ill-prepared, even though for a very long time in New Orleans there was talk that a big hurricane would hit and it would flood the city. Now, it's true, no one expected the levees to break, but so what? Shit happens. Leaders respond and make good things happen. Because oftentimes, in the worst of times, you see the best in humans. And we saw the best in humans in so many ways in New Orleans, just not from government. Certainly not from Nagin, who was ill-prepared for that emergency. And then there was the governor at the time, Kathleen Blanco. She didn't know what to do. The state went through all these bureaucratic processes before helping people that were stuck and stranded in flooded New Orleans. And then don't get me started about the Bush administration. They failed too. You remember the famous line, perhaps, if you're old enough to remember and followed the news, when Bush said to FEMA director Michael Brown, "Brownie, you're doing a heck of a job." No, he wasn't. He was doing a terrible job. All three levels of government got caught flat-footed, and it was the people of New Orleans that helped each other out. And then the Louisiana National Guard came in, General Honoré. He's the one that really got things done. He became the standard bearer of the rescue efforts. So in learning those lessons firsthand and experiencing those lessons firsthand, we got out of New Orleans on our own. We were lucky. We had 2 cars above the waterline. Shane's F-150. Shane was my news guy sidekick / co-host. My man, Shane Warner. And then we had rented a car, an H3 Hummer, because we had a national host, Neil Bortz, come to town that weekend. So we got really lucky. But again, to that point, we had to take care of it ourselves, just like most people in New Orleans did. So I want to bring you back to Smith & Wollensky's. This is a very famous steakhouse. It's got a great reputation. It's well known for their steaks. You sit down at the table, and they explain how they have their own ranches. They dry age their meat in-house. They cut their meat in-house. They are saying they're the standard bearers in steak. And I love to eat a steak. I love to go out, get a fancy steak. Oh, especially when it's good. And in that experience, I've had many good steaks. Boa Steakhouse in Vegas comes to mind. Durant's in Phoenix comes to mind. Buck and Ryder in Phoenix comes to mind. There have been many, 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 many really great steaks that have knocked my socks off. So I'm thinking that's what I'm going to get here at Smith & Wollensky's. The standard bearer of steaks. But I get the steak, and it turns out to be mediocre, kind of crappy. So I eat it. I don't complain, but I'm like, I don't think I will be coming to Smith & Wollensky's anymore because it was so mediocre. It was disappointing, especially for a company that brags about being the standard bearer, because the standard bearer is going back to this. They're bold, they're out front, they're visible. Smith & Wollensky's was bold, maybe even visible, particularly in Chicago because it's right on the river. Big sign right above it. Looks attractive, glass windows. Super appealing. But they didn't live up to the billing because they were not out front, it turns out. Because they're just like everybody else right now. 6'7", as the kids would say. A couple of days later, the group I'm with, we decided to go to Legal Seafoods. And it's right in the same area, right on the river in Chicago. And we decided to all sit down as a group. There were 6 of us in total, and have a little fun. I didn't get any seafood. I wasn't in the mood for seafood. I have a love-hate relationship with seafood. Sometimes I like it, sometimes I don't. But my buddy Tom and I, who's got a new book coming out about flow, Fear to Flow, phenomenal book. I've got to read the preview copy of it. You can pre-order it now, and I recommend that you do, because Tom's all about getting into flow state. His story is so fascinating. You want to talk about a standard bearer? Tom Roberts is a standard bearer. A dentist who got involved in Buddhism, who used to fly to Nepal to do dental work as a volunteer on the locals there, the kids, adults, because they don't have a lot of dental care there. And while he's there, he starts learning about Buddhism and meditation, and he ends up getting into flow because he got in a race car. And he realized while racing, he could get into the zone, so to speak, where time didn't matter, time didn't exist. He could just be. He was one with the car. So that led him on an exploration of flow. And in his book, he expands the definition of flow. Because the original founder of flow says you constantly have to be improving in order to stay in flow. Well, Tom disagrees with that because he says, my friend Kathy quilts. And every time she quilts, not more challenging than the last, but she still gets into flow. So it's super interesting. So Tom and I ordered some sushi, and they had run out. This is Legal Seafoods. So the waitress, who was actually really good, said, sorry, we've been having some trouble with our ordering. We are running out of seafood at Legal Seafoods. She went on to explain that it's been busier than the bosses had expected, and they haven't ordered enough lobster. And that's what Legal Seafoods is famous for, lobster. So they didn't have that. They're running low on seafood, and I got a burger, and it was okay. And it took a long time. I think we were at this dinner for 2.5 hours unnecessarily. It's not because we were chatting and having a good time, which we were, but we still could have wrapped the whole thing up in an hour and a half. But see, here's the thing. Legal Seafoods doesn't appear to have enough help, and they don't appear to have enough food. So they're busier than expected, short-staffed, short on food. That leads to a really mediocre, at best, experience. And I think you would agree with me if you walk through the world anywhere right now, that's what you experience. Mediocrity. Now, I, for one, am tired of mediocrity because this $82 Smith & Wollensky steak, I made a better one at my house for my brother's birthday a couple of weeks ago. It was $18 that I got at the supermarket. It's a good cut of meat, and I cooked it really well. So now I'm thinking to myself, why would I go out and spend $82 for a mediocre steak when I can get a $20 steak and eat it and make it better at my house? That's why the world needs more standard bearers. Not people pretending, but people who are the real deal. So this applies to you as a leader. This applies to you as a business owner. This applies to you no matter what you're doing. You could be the leader of your family. The opportunity is there because so many of us are experiencing mediocre crap when we go out. And it's not just restaurants. Customer service in general. I had a recent experience with a roofing company that was 6-7. It was just less than desirable. I won't be using that roofing company anymore. Because they say they're standard bearers, but they're really not. They're just transactional. So the point in telling you all this is that we're all experiencing this mediocrity. So if you can be the standard bearer, be bold, be visible out front, break the rules, but do it in the right way, you're going to lead your team more effectively. Your business is actually going to grow, not contract like the experience at Smith & Wollensky. So keep that in mind as you go about your day, you go about your week. Be the standard bearer because that's what your industry needs, that's what your company needs, and quite frankly, that's what the world needs, your neighborhood needs, that's what your family needs. Bold, visible, out front, like the soldiers that would go into battle and carry a flag, show everyone else the way. That's what we're doing here. Appreciate you joining me. It's your boy, the ROB. This is Equal Matters. Cheers.